What an interest rate rise of 25 basis points at the Bank of England mean for your business?
Banks generally make more money when the yield curve steepens. It's the shape of the curve rather than the rates. I don't think a rate rise will slow down the British economy, but I think the banks generally will do a little bit better.
Would your bank do a little bit better than a little bit better?
We're doing great now. We had another great quarter, record growth again in deposits and loans, customer acquisition, and Metro Bank is a completely new model in Britain, and we're basically in the market share take business.
Yep.
So we care less about the economic environment, our focus on giving customers a real choice, and thank God the British public has really responded. This quarter, for instance, our commercial deposits have become greater than our consumer deposits as we're filling a void in the commercial banking space.
What does the SME picture look like? What does the lending picture look like in SMEs?
SME business, particularly in Greater London, strong. A lot of demand for credit. Things look great.
Because this is a big driver of the UK economy. So if you're telling me that, then that's an interesting little sort of tidbit of information.
Brexit does not seem to have an effect. We really haven't seen any slowdown down at all.
I wonder what you think about the competition that you have, closing branches and going to more of an online model. It's been a story in banking for a long time, but in a sense, you're ahead of the pack on technology, as I understand it, in UK retail banking. Do you need to close some branches as well? Or are you thinking that you might do that?
Actually, we're building all new stores, as we call our branches. The big banks are burdened with lots of old bank branches that don't work. They're burdened with a technology system that's out of date. Metro Bank is built fresh from scratch. We get to build new stores on new IT with the best in Fintech. And our growth rate has been unbelievably high.
What's the most important development in Fintech, Vernon?
Yeah, there is no really one important development. The Fintech ideas are not going to replace the banks. They're something we use to improve the experience. Mobile, I would say, is probably the biggest change in the last 4 or 5 years. Mobile banking has become very important. We're proud to say at Metro Bank we just won an award for the best mobile banking app in Britain. But really, it's about delivering the customer experience in-store, online, mobile, ATM, whatever delivery channel the customer wants.
When it comes to mortgage lending, there is a price war that is vicious right now. And people are switching out of variables, so it's harder to make money in that space. Give me your sort of 2 pence worth on how you think this one is gonna work out, because you've only got to look at the papers, and you've only got to go sort of look at the comparison websites and look at the kind of numbers that you can get quoted on the cost of money right now. It's just going down and down.
Yeah, it's sort of hit the bottom now in the residential mortgage loan rates, but I agree the rates are very low and the market's very competitive. I would have to predict that it can't last.
Right. Can't last. Is that so? You think is the bottom a kind of V and then they come back straight back up again, or is it kind of come down and incrementally go up?
If we could predict rates, we'd all be doing much better.
Yeah, we'd all be doing something else, or not doing something else. Net interest margin. Just talk to me about the kind of. I think Lloyd's was out with a number that was north of 2 this morning. I think 2.85. Your number's at 1.94. Talk to me about the kind of the either side of that equation. How much it costs to get deposits, what you have to pay deposits, what you can lend money out at, and the kind of the relationship between the two.
So the net interest margin is the difference on what you earn on your loan book and your bond book and what your cost of deposits are.
Yep.
The Metro model is building fans by delivering an unusual service and convenience experience. We're not a deposit rate driven model. We have the highest growth rate in Britain and probably in America too, designed around service. No one buys an iPhone 7 because it's cheap. They're buying the Apple world. And that is the Metro Bank model. So yes, we would like the yield curve to steepen because that's when the margin would improve. The older banks have old books at old rates that are left on from the old days. But certainly, as rates change, you can see our margin improve.
Does that change the, Vernon, there's a bank here in Germany, N26, which is also a very new kind of fintechy bank that the kids use just to deal with daily transactions. If I think of an older bank model, like a Huntington Bank in America, they like people to build up big deposits and then try and convince those people to let them invest their money or do things with that cash. That's the kind of big cash piles in those older deposit banks that you don't see in like a new N26. Is there a difference here, or am I just perceiving that wrong?
Well, you're not quite right on the American experience. The banks don't really encourage people to invest money from their bank accounts. That's really not the American model. Every bank has a different model, and there's rooms for lots of different players. The fintech guys, I don't know particularly the one you mentioned, but they have a very limited offering. They don't have a full-service bank, commercial and consumer, with a wider range of products. And they do have a role to play. There is a space for them, but I have said that in many cases they're the icing with no cake. Metro Bank is a complete bank, commercial, consumer, a full array of products. But there's room for every model.
I'm just curious to ask, and probably anyone who watches this program on a regular basis could anticipate the question, but do you see any room for Bitcoin in banking?
There's so much dispute about Bitcoin, and it's really a back office payment device. And I really have no thoughts about where Bitcoin is going. It's hard for me to see how it's going to really change the basic banking world.
One final quick question. And we talked about Brexit a little bit earlier on. You've said in the past that London is a boom town.
I have.
Is London still a boom town?
Absolutely.
Nothing's going to change that?
I can't predict the future, but right now it is a boom town.